Hey everybody, it's Josh with Bees in the Weeds. Have an exciting video for you today. We're in the shop. It's cold. It's wintertime here in Kentucky, so I figured I would do an unboxing video for you. So a company by the name of MayBee reached out to me. They're based in China, spelled MayBee, and they asked if I would do a video on assembling a Langstroth hive. They thought that, several folks out there could benefit from assembling a hive from scratch. Maybe you've never done it yourself. I've actually done quite a few. So I said that I would agree to do that and post this video. So this is a paid promotion. I did not pay for this hive. However, just like I've told you before, and I told them, I will give my 100% honest feedback on this. So let's go ahead and see what we got here and unbox this. It arrived a few days ago. It's very heavy. Just based on what's on the outside of the box, I think we're working with a complete 10-frame Langstroth that includes 2 deep bodies and 1 super body. So if that's the case, my dad and I will go ahead and assemble this. So let's see what's in here. And again, I'm opening this for the first time with you all. Okay, so yeah. All right. Okay, so already I recognize the frame ends. So these, let's go ahead and get these out. These are going to be the top of your deep frames. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So it looks like there's 10 frames here and some more here. And those are going to be, I would imagine there would be 20 of these, because if there's 2 deeps, there should be 20 total deep frames in here. These are your ends for the end of the frames. Same here. This appears to be pine, some type of soft wood, but I can already tell you right now, just looking at the cuts, they look pretty precise, so time will tell on that. Okay, this looks like these are the tops of your super frames. So I'm going to start setting all this stuff up here. Make room. And if there's 1 super, I anticipate, 10 of those. So 10 of these top super frames. So here is plastic super foundation. Just trying to see if I smell any beeswax scratching here. I don't think so. These don't appear to be coated or lightly coated. I see maybe a little bit of wax on there. Here's your deep frames, and these are coated with beeswax. Yeah, I can smell it. So not heavy coating. There's all sorts of varieties of coating with these foundations that you can order. I prefer Acorn, but there's lots of good different manufacturing companies out there for foundation. And then you can get varying levels of wax. So the thicker the wax, the more likely bees are to begin to draw comb on there. Foundation that has no wax on it, I've seen where bees won't even touch it. So it just kind of helps encourage the bees to do what they do best. So here's some more. I would expect there's a total of 20 of these. And then these are the ends for the supers. Okay, we've got some nails here, which I am not going to use. I'm going to brad this hive together. So not going to use those. And I'm not sure what they have these wooden screws for. Probably, again, to assemble the deep bodies. But I'm going to glue and brad everything together. If you do not have a nailer, certainly wood screws is fine. I always highly recommend that you use wood glue, though, when you're assembling these, because your hive bodies will last a lot longer out in the elements if you use wood glue. Okay, and then lastly, what is this? Is this more? Oh, these are the bottoms of the super frames. Okay, now one thing that's really cool here, this is an entrance reducer. So if you've seen some of my other videos, there's about a 4-inch, 1-inch, and you can rotate this at various times of the year on the bottom of your hive. If you want to limit the amount of access into the hive, completely off the hive for full access, or rotate it here if you just want to provide 4 inches of access. And there's all sorts of reasons of why you would want to change this throughout the year. I personally keep all of my hives with the 1-inch access year round, and I don't have any issues here in Kentucky. Okay, so the cool thing about this right away is this hive is wax dipped. So all of the woodenware in here, the external facing woodenware, and this is a solid bottom board, which would be the first solid bottom board in my apiary. I use screen bottom boards, but that's just personal preference. Both are really good, and each one has their pros and cons. But there is a lot of wax on this wood. It's heavily coated, and if you're wondering why would you wax your woodenware, well, this actually provides very good element protection to the wood. So this would be an alternative to painting your hives. I personally don't have any wax hives. I have several beekeeper friends that do have wax hives and absolutely swear by it. It holds up really well in the elements, and obviously it's something, you know, with it being beeswax, it's something that the bees are going to be accustomed to. So this is your bottom board. This is your entrance reducer. We've got super, let's see, these are your super sides for your super hive body, right? So it's going to end up being a rectangle here. Okay, so we'll get into assembling those, and this is all heavily wax dipped. Thoughts on the woodenware? This is dovetail. That's dovetail, right, Dad? Okay. Yeah, so 2 of these long sides here are dovetailed, which is interesting. And dovetailing just provides a stronger joint. So yeah, we'll get into that here in a minute. My dad's the expert on that, not me. He's going to help me assemble these. So that's the one super body. So we'll set that over here. And then there ought to be 2 deeps in here, yeah. So here's your first deep. And here is your second deep. And here's the name of the company with their logo on it. So you see MayBee Hives. So we've got 4 of these. These are the end pieces for the 2 deeps. There's a real nice inner cover here. And one thing that I noticed right away is it does, which is a positive thing, it has the proper bee spacing observed here. So when you lay these on top of a deep, if the side were to be completely smooth, the bees would propolis all through here, each location of a frame, because they would not be able to climb over top of the frames. Bees want to be able to climb over the top. So this, 1/4 inch to maybe, I don't know, 3/8 gap here provides enough bee spacing for those bees to climb over the top. So, and this is also outside here is all coated with wax. And then looks like the last piece we have here is a nice outer cover. Now this is a telescoping outer cover, nicely waxed here. You've got a metal, looks like aluminum top, which is going to hold up real well to the elements. Inside of the outer cover is heavily waxed also. Again, first glance here, this is really nice construction. So I'm anxious to see how this fits together. Now, they've even been nice enough to include a queen excluder. So this is a plastic queen excluder. I'm not a huge fan of plastic queen excluders. Over time, they can warp and bend. I prefer the metal queen excluders, but I do use queen excluders. There's lots of beekeepers that don't use queen excluders. So honestly, though, this is a real nice added benefit if you wanted to place this in between the super and the 2 deeps to prevent your queen from being able to get up in the honey supers and lay eggs. So very nice. So yeah, first thoughts, just unboxing. This looks pretty good. The quality of the wood looks pretty decent. Again, to me, it appears to be pine. Is that what you think it is, Dad? Looks like pine.
Looks like it's pre-drilled for screws.
Yeah, pre-drilled for screws here. So we may end up using those wood screws because they've already pre-drilled these holes here. So it may just make it a lot easier. But we're definitely going to use glue, and then we end up still using the nailer instead of those nails that they provided here in this bag. But certainly you could use what they provided. All hardware and everything that's necessary has been included. So yeah, let's go ahead and get out the tools that we need, and we'll go ahead and put this hive together. Okay, we're back, and we've got everything laid out here. I've got my dad here. He's going to help me put these together. So we've got the super frame set out here. We've got the deep frames here. We've got the deep bodies and the super body. And I figured what we would do is we would go ahead and assemble 2 of the deep frames, show you how that is, assemble 2 of the super frames, and then assemble 1 of the deep bodies and the super body, and so that you can see how each one of these components goes together. And then at the very end, I'll assemble the entire Langstroth hive and show you how that goes together. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So for the frames, there's really 4 components. There's the top bar here that has a groove that the foundation slips into. So this will be the top of the frame. There's the bottom piece that has a groove in the bottom. And so this would be the bottom of the frame. And then there's the side pieces. The deep frames and the super frames are the same length. The only difference is the height. So the shorter pieces are for the supers, and the longer pieces are for the deeps. So we're going to go ahead and assemble 2 of the deeps first and show you how those go together. Like I said, always recommend glue. This Tight Bond 3, which is waterproof and exterior, is an excellent glue for woodworking. My dad always said that once the glue cures, the bond itself is actually stronger than the wood. So make sure that each point where you're joining the frames and the hives and the deep bodies and the super body together, that you use some form of wood glue. And I think Tight Bond is an excellent brand. So, all right, Dad, let's go ahead and start with the first one. So you also will probably want some form of a square. We just have these black squares that we use when we're assembling frames. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is get your glue out and put a little bit of glue all on the inside of one of the sides. And go ahead and fit that together. Do the same with the other side. And be generous with your glue. One thing I'm already noticing the craftsmanship of this already I can tell is very nice. These are fitting together very snug, which is nice. And then you've got your bottom piece here. And again, make sure the groove is facing up. And then what we'll do is we'll double check with the square once we get this in here. So we use the square to keep it, to keep it square until we get the brad nails in. So let's go ahead and rotate it here, Dad, so I can. And what I do is I just put 1 brad nail right here at the top of the frame in between the 2 notches so it drives it into the side. And then we'll do the same for the other side here. And if you're using the nails that came with it, thanks, Dad. If you use the nails that are coming with it, you would see them right here on the top. 1 nail there and 1 nail right here. Okay, now we'll do the bottom. Go ahead and square that up for me, Dad. And that's it. And so now the first frame is complete. By using your square, you know that it's perfectly square and that the foundation is going to slip in here real nice and even. So we'll go ahead and set that aside and we'll do our next one.
And you can flex these.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
You can flex these in to install them into the frame once you've assembled the frame, because they are quite flexible.
Okay. That first one on there. And you kind of get a groove with this stuff eventually. You can move pretty quickly at a certain point. Let's go ahead and rotate it. Yep. The nailer obviously makes it a lot faster work. It's not required, so if you don't have one, it's okay. You'll just use a hammer and the nails that are provided. But if you end up assembling a lot of these frames, obviously the nailer makes quick work of it. Make sure that everything's fit together pretty tight. Okay, so that's the second one done. And you want to give that glue, how long, Dad, to dry?
A good 2 hours. A good 2 hours to let it fully cured in 24, but 2 hours is fine for assembly.
Yeah, these are fitting together really nice, which saves so much time. I've had many frames before that my dad and I had to modify just to get to fit together. So I really appreciate when a manufacturer takes the time to ensure that all their jigs and manufacturing process is within tolerance and precise, so we as the beekeepers and the end users don't have to spend a lot of time fixing push it in further, Dad. It's not pushed in. See it? Yeah, there we go. When they spend time ensuring ahead of time that all their pieces fit together properly.
Let's do this.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. And if you have a rag, I don't know if you can go get me a rag, Dad. You can wipe any sort of excess glue that you may have off when putting these together. Okay, here's the last one. And you can see I'm putting glue all around this notch, inside here, and on the other side. Every place that the pieces of wood are going to be touching each other, that's where you want to put the glue. And then when this cures, you're going to get a real nice joint. Okay. And again, everywhere the wood is going to touch each other here is where I've added glue. All right. And that's it. And so you just want to let this dry for several hours before you try to put your foundation inside, because you want these joints to be well cured, because if you start trying to force your foundation in here before that glue's had a chance to dry, you could end up...
If you start racking and twisting the frames, they will dry out of square. So you always want to keep your frames as square as you can. Makes it much easier for the frame to fit together and for the foundation to fit in.
And that's it. Okay.
We're good?
Yep, we're good. So we're going to move on. We're going to let those dry. And we're going to move on to the first deep. So it looks like they've got the logo on each side. So there's 4 pieces here. And you're going to grab 2 of the long ones. And I think we actually are going to use the wood screws that are provided. Dad, I don't know if you have a bit for your drill here.
I do.
Okay. And the reason why I've decided to use these instead of the nailer is that MayBee actually pre-drilled all these holes, which makes it super easy. So there's no reason not to use the screws. And quite frankly, screws are going to hold it together better over a long time period, but still the wood glue is going to do the majority of the holding. So this is pretty simple. You just want to start with your first side. The longer ones are the sides. The shorter ones are the ends. And with this being dovetailed versus a finger joint, you're not going to be able to put them together like this. You're going to have to push. You're going to have to push the joint. You're going to have to push this piece into the top piece, and with it being dovetailed, it's going to fit together pretty snug. So you may have to work it in. The good side is it's a very strong joint. Yeah, and of course with the wax coating. So I just wanted to show you what that's like, because we're still going to put glue in here. But you can see how I had to push it down to fit it in the joint. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. And we're going to put glue, once again, everywhere that wood touches the other wood. So inside the dovetail here. And what you can do is, I usually just take my finger and make sure that all the edges are coated. And then I'll take this, I'll push this back in, just like that. Make sure that it's joined together, that it fits snug, that you don't have any gaps. And Dad, I'll let you screw those in while I hold it. With this being wood, you want to make sure you don't strip your screws, so. Are those self-tapping?
They're just wood screws. They just,
by
the hole being pre-drilled.
And with it being a soft wood, I guess you don't
Right.
need to pre-drill in, so yeah.
All right. They go together real easy.
Okay.
You got one on the other side.
I got one on the other side here, at the very top.
That's it.
All right. Okay, we'll do the next one. Get the long piece there. Pay attention to the handles, and it should only fit one direction, but you want all of your handles facing up, obviously, so you'd be able to carry those. So this should fit just like that, and it does. So get your wood glue. Hold that for me. On the inside there, take your finger, smear it around. Get a little bit more on that one. Okay. I'm going to lay this like that so that I can press it down in there. All right, it's good and snug. And then I'm going to hold this. Get your screws over there.
Yep.
While he puts the screws in. And you can see this doesn't take a great deal of time or skill set. You know, a person with very little woodworking knowledge or experience can put this hive together. And that's what's nice about these pre-fabricated hives. It's all these dovetails and everything is already pre-cut. It makes it easy for the do-it-yourselfer. And, you know, you can save yourself a bit of money.
Ooh, split.
So we had a little bit of a split here. So what we can do is we can back that out, back that screw out, put
some glue in there.
Put a little bit of wood glue in here.
And then we'll pin nail it.
Yep. So if that happens to you and your wood splits a little bit, just put some wood glue in there. Then take your pin nailer. Just shoot one little nail in there and that'll do it. And when that glue dries, you'll never know any difference. So it just split right here at the top a little bit. So we put some glue in there and then we pin nailed it from the top here. So let's go ahead and do the final piece here. But like I was saying, you can save yourself some money if you're willing to buy hives unassembled. Of course, it's cheaper to ship also when they're not already pre-put together. And it doesn't take a great deal of skill. It just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of patience. And I'm a fan of this dovetailing. I wish the other hives that I had were dovetailed instead of finger jointed. And I have to push this one in. And then, okay. And then this one has to get pushed in. So, there we go. And push that in.
Turn it sideways so we can push down.
Okay.
Yep. There you go.
Push down. Oh, make sure everything's nice and tight and snug. And then we'll put the last few screws in here. And I would note that the wax coating is not just on the outside of the box, so they didn't take any shortcuts. So the entire piece of wood, top, bottom, inside, outside, is all wax dipped. So it's going to give you really nice protection from the elements. Right there.
Let's do these first.
Okay.
And these are coated screws, so the coated screws will not rust over time.
What are they coated with? Are they brass screws or what?
No, it's just a coating that's applied electronically in the manufacturing process. You can buy coated screws anywhere.
Okay.
Very resistant to rusting that way. Used a lot on decks.
Oh, like deck
outside.
Screws. Yep.
Yes.
Careful, don't split this. Yeah, these top pieces where they have a screw here, the wood is thinner, so it's more prone to splitting. So go easy when you're screwing these in. I don't know if you could tell in the video, my dad was also angling the screw a little bit this way instead of straight in to try to prevent that from happening. But that's it. So this is the first deep body. And I don't know, what did that take us? 10 minutes? So you can put one of these together. Just take your paper towel and get any excess glue and wipe that down. And this will cure in about 24 hours. And we can go ahead and check to see if it's square, which the dovetailing is really going to control that. So you can see it's perfectly square all the way around. And by having this dovetailed, this joint, with these joints dovetailed, that's really going to dictate the angle, which again is, I really like that over the finger jointing, because when my dad and I assembled deeps that were finger jointed, we would have had to have used this level to keep it, this square to keep it straight, where we didn't have to do that with this one. So super nice. All right, let's set this aside. And the last we need to assemble is the super, which is going to be very similar to this deep that we just did. So, but it should go together even quicker. So for comparison purposes, a deep is the same length. It's just, as you can tell, it's just shallower. And if you're wanting to know the reason why, it's not really necessary, but when these get full of honey, these supers get full of honey, they can get very, very heavy. Anywhere from 50 to maximum of somewhere around, I've seen some at 60 pounds. And that's back-breaking work. And so the reason why we make honey supers,
a short window.
Yep, short one, sorry. The reason why we make honey supers shorter is to save our backs. All right, you want to screw that one, Dad? There are some beekeepers that choose to use only one size of equipment, and they may only use deeps. So their honey supers, using air quotes here, are actually deep bodies. Well, when the bees fill those full of honey, those things can get over 100 pounds, which trying to pick one of those up high off of a colony is back-breaking work. But some people do it. Some people, so that's the upside, is you can get more honey stored in one box, and you only need to maintain one box throughout your entire apiary. The downside is the extra weight, which just can be very, very backbreaking. So, as with all things in beekeeping, it's personal preference. I do use honey supers. I do not keep honey deeps. It's just too heavy, in my opinion. I mean, these supers get heavy enough as it is. So that's the reason for the differences. And on the flip side, some beekeepers only use supers, and they just use these supers as their deeps. So the downside of that is, with the deep bodies generally being where the brood rearing is taking place, there's not as much space for the queen to lay in. So if you're only giving her those short frames, obviously that's much less cells, much less area that she's able to lay in. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that it could lead to more swarming. Many things in beekeeping are a trade-off. So a lot of beekeepers think that the happy middle is having both deeps and supers. And I fall into that category. So, but you have to maintain more equipment. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, I've got deep bodies all over this shop, and I've got super bodies. Generally, the deep bodies stay outside in the apiary the vast majority of the time, unless you lose a colony or you have extras that you're building. The supers are the ones that are seasonal, that we store in the winter months. So all my supers are up there on top of the shelves right now. And the majority of my deeps, though, are out in the apiary where the bees are inside of them. So spread that apart a little bit, get this pushed together, and we'll get this finished. Oh, tight fitting, so you definitely have to use some muscle here to get this squeezed together. But the upside of that is it's going to be real tight joints. And so it's going to last a long time. You're not going to have to worry about water getting in there and turning into ice and busting and splitting this wood apart. And I've just kind of been taking mental note of the pine as we've been going along here. Pretty decent pine wood. I don't see a ton of knots. Obviously, there are some knots, but I've seen pine that's, you know, grade, like the lower grade pine. That's just probably not going to last as long. It's got significant flaws with it or chunks out of it. This is pretty good. And anywhere that there is knots, you know, the wax is really helping to coat all that. All right, last one. So that's it, you know. 5 minutes later, and you've got the super body assembled. And so obviously, you know, I'm sure with MayBee hives, you could order additional supers if needed, because you will need it if you have a colony, especially a double deep colony. When you're in a good flow, you know, sometimes I could have 4 or 5 supers on one colony. So definitely make sure that you pick up several of these. It's nice that the kit comes with one, but do yourself a favor, and I would definitely order more of these, because with beekeeping, you always have to stay 2 or 3 steps ahead of your bees. They're not going to wait for you. So make sure that you're well prepared. So again, this went together really nice. You know, I'll say it again. I really like this dovetail, these dovetail joints here. So worked out really well, really tightly held together. I don't see a lot of gaps. Again, nothing to complain about. Dad, what are your thoughts?
Very well made, very well engineered. The dovetail is probably one of the stronger joints you can have in wood. Now that we've glued it as well, the glue will help keep the dove joints together. Screws that are coated will not rust. Should add longevity to your to your total beehive adventure, if you will. So yeah, good hive, well made, well engineered. A lot of good things to say about it, and as you can see for yourself, it went together really easy.
Yeah,
quite easily. So.
I agree. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put the rest of these together, the frames and the other deep body, and then I'll show you how this entire Langstroth goes together at the very end. Okay, so we finished assembling all the frames here. I have placed the foundation in the majority of them, but I wanted to show you how I do it in a couple of these. So if you've watched other videos, you probably have seen people assemble their frames with the foundation in there. I don't do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think it's harder to actually get your frame square if you're not using a square, and if the foundation is in the way, you know, you could have a little bit of variance with that. The other reason is, you know, this foundation is pretty flexible. So once this wood glue is fully cured and dried, it's pretty easy to snap this foundation in. So just put it in the bottom groove, apply a little bit of pressure up top, and just work it into that top groove. And then give it a good shake. And if you hear that, you know that you've got it seated well. And this deep foundation is pretty heavily waxed after I got looking at it pretty closely. So it's got a real nice layer of wax on it, which is really nice. Okay. And do the same for the supers. This is waxed also, again, which is nice. These are a little bit more difficult to put in because there's not as much bend with these, but you can still manage to pop them right in there. So just follow that line. Give it a good shake, make sure it's in there. And you're not going to hurt the frames as long as that glue is fully cured. Okay. So let's go ahead and do the final assembly. So we're going to start with our bottom board here. Like I said, this is a solid bottom board. So the deeper side here goes on the bottom. So if you go out into your outside, into your yard, or wherever you're going to place your apiary, you would set this on your hive stand, whatever hive stand you want to come up with. Next, you want to grab one of your deep bodies. And you want to place this on top of the bottom board and have it lined up. And then depending on what time of year it is or what your personal preference is, you want to go ahead and put your entrance reducer in. So just lift up the deep a little bit, and your entrance reducer ought to sit just underneath of that. And so that'll be the bee's primary entrance right here. Second, you're going to put in 10 of your frames. These are 10 frame Langstroths. So all 10 will go in your first deep. The spacing is already considered, so you're going to press them all together. And one more. Now, there may be a little bit of a gap here, and that's fine. Generally, what I do when I'm in the apiary, I just center them between the two edges here so that you don't have too much of a thick comb on frames 1 and 2. Because if you push all these to the one side, the comb on this end will get really thick, and it can be hard to maneuver that frame. So I just center the 10 frames in the deep. Next, you're going to place your second deep if you choose to have double deeps, and you'll place that directly on top of the existing. And once again, you're going to grab all 10 frames and place them inside the hive body. Now, with these already having a layer of wax on it, like I said earlier, this will entice the bees and encourage them to start drawing comb. If you put foundation in your hives that does not have a wax coating on it, the bees still may draw it, but they're just not as inclined to do so. So 9 and 10. Again, you'll center these frames. So now you have 20 deep frames in here. If you so choose, this is where you would place your queen excluder on top so that the queen is forced to stay down in the 2 brood chambers down here. And you would place your super on top of that queen excluder. You do not have to use a queen excluder. And then from there, you probably guessed what's coming next. You would place all 10 of these super frames. And if you do already have some drawn comb from a previous hive, I always, if you have brand new foundation like this, even if it's covered with wax, I like to place 1 or 2 already drawn combs in the super, because that just really encourages the bees to go ahead and get started. And they'll be more inclined to draw comb on this new foundation than if you put a brand new super out there with nothing but foundation. If you have no other option, that's fine. But if you have some spare comb, I always encourage beekeepers to put 1 or 2 frames in there. So the super's ready. Your inner cover, some inner covers have a notch. This particular model does not, so it doesn't matter. And as far as the bee spacing is concerned, it looks like this is equidistant in terms of the overlap here on either side. So I do not believe it matters which way you place this inner cover. So just square it up on your hive there. And then, of course, last is going to be your telescoping cover, which is going to go on top, just like that. And if you watch any of my other videos, I place a weight. I place a brick on top of my colonies because I do not want them to tip over or slide around. So that's it. This is the fully constructed, assembled 10-frame MayBee Langstroth hive. My personal thoughts, I thought it was really easy to put together. I really love the dovetail. The wax dipping, the wax coating is very nice. They were very generous with the amount of wax that they used, not only on the actual hive itself, but on the frames, the super frames, the deep foundation. I thought they did a really good job with that. The construction is solid. The quality of wood is good. The top is nice. The aluminum is nice. All around, I think this is a very high quality Langstroth hive from what I can tell. So I'm, anxious to get this out in my yard, maybe get a swarm this spring that I'll throw in here, and I'll certainly keep you all posted on how that goes. But by all accounts, this is really, really nice, high quality stuff. I love the screws, just everything about it. This retails for, I believe, $180 on MayBee's website. I'll be sure to put a link below in the description. So if you would like to get your own, MayBee Langstroth Hive kit and setup like this, and you want to try your hand at assembling, it's very simple. It's very easy. It's straightforward. I'll put a link down there so you can place your own order. But I hope that everybody found this helpful. I know that the video was a little bit long. We're probably closing in on about half an hour here or more. But I wanted to make sure that I took the time to show you detailed step by step on how to assemble this from start to finish without skipping over any of the important steps or the high level stuff and the details. So that way, if you want to try your hand at assembling this, you'll have everything that you need. You can start and pause this video and go back and watch it so that you too can assemble your MayBee hive. So again, I hope you found this helpful. If you did, be sure to hit the thumbs up for me and hit the subscribe button. And thank you for watching.